Everybody, this is John Wilson. We're going to be starting up pretty soon. If everyone can go ahead and mute their microphones right now, we'll start up in just another 1 to 2 minutes while we let people join.
Yeah. Right. And so. So then, you need the harness. I'm taking this very long. So then Willie's like, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna take a shovel and go up. I'm like, okay, see ya.
Those 2 steps right there.
Huh?
Those 2 steps.
Yeah, but everybody should mute the microphone.
Because he really wants up there. Really bad.
That's
So
you have to twist. I don't know. I'm not gonna put it right there. I'll probably end up just pulling it.
Hey, can you please go on mute? We're just going to start in just another 1 minute. So if everyone can go on mute, we're still here in a little bit. We've got over 200 people who are on right now.
I thought I knew.
I don't know. No. Cutter, do you want to go ride?
The host can mute everybody too.
All right, everybody. Hey, this is John Wilson. I'm president of PAC Northwest. Hopefully you all can be hearing me. I ended up going through and muting everybody. Thanks for those of you who suggested that I can do that. I think we have close to 300 people online now, so there's a whole bunch of us. I wish we were all sitting in Starfire and we could all be in the classroom together and we could do this, but unfortunately we're just going to do it over this Zoom format. Before we get started, I just want to confirm that Layton is on. So Layton, can you say something just to confirm that you're able to join?
Yeah, I'm on, John.
Perfect. All right. So the agenda for today for our call, we've got a couple things we're going to be running through. So first of all, we're going to start, just go here. I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction. Then I'm going to turn it over to Layton, and he's going to go through and talk about sort of our current sort of programming, what we have going. Layton will talk about sort of where we're at with the season. We'll look ahead to next year, sort of the tryouts, and then we'll talk about some sort of financial issues that have come up, obviously, as a result of this coronavirus that we've been going through. Let's see here. So first thing I'd like to address, it's a bit of a sad note. Unfortunately, the coronavirus hit home for us as a club this week when we learned that the parent of one of our players ended up passing away from the coronavirus. And obviously, this was just a tragedy that hit all of us. Our directors have been doing a great job of supporting the family, and we've been in touch with them and with the player. And we're continuing to just work through those issues with them. Thankfully, this is the first instance that we know about where any of our sort of players, their parents, anything else have been impacted by coronavirus, but obviously just a tragedy, and we'll continue to support the family and the player throughout this time. So again, if I'll go through and make sure that I can mute everybody so we can just have a nice clear sound. I'm going to pass it over to Layton, and he's going to talk about some of the things that we've been doing right now as a soccer club. Layton, go ahead.
Okay, I hope everyone can hear me. First of all, hope everyone's safe and practicing social distancing. And obviously, it's difficult times. We're us at PAC. We're really trying to make sure that we provide a good service and good quality and value while everyone's at home and looking for things to do and looking for guidance. So myself and the directors, Malia, Pedro, Viet, and Ryan, are rolling out curriculum through our managers. Every week, there's a different curriculum. And for us, it's been part of our DNA for many years now in terms of being a players club and, really working together behind the scenes for the individual, family, and player, and making sure that they're, at the forefront of our mind and when we're building our curriculum and our style of play. So really, it's been a horrible situation, but we're trying to make the most out of it. I feel like we're very prepared in terms of what we do together internally, the foundation, the DNA of our club. And I have to give a lot of credit to our directors and our coaches for rolling out this curriculum, this macro cycle of 4 or 5 weeks that we're at home, and the type of creativity they've come up with and the communication that they're putting out to all our families. And I hope it's good for the kids. We're trying to get better every week as we do, and we're trying to make sure that the kids are engaged and the coaches are engaged in providing value to the families in this troubling time. So with that, I know just briefly, we have our directors here. I'm going to let John decide when they come on, but they'd like to talk about their program a little bit, talk about the coaches that are doing a great job under them, and just kind of let everyone know that we're very excited to get back to Starfire on the field, see everyone again. Really makes us value, what we have when we don't. So we're working very hard behind the scenes for everyone. I hope you guys are feeling that, and we're very excited as a staff to make sure that we're doing our best job and we're back on the field as soon as we can. John, do you want to introduce them at some point?
Go ahead. Go ahead. You can do it, Layton. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll kick off with Ryan. I think Ryan will start with our youngest, and we'll go up the ladder. So Ryan, are you ready to talk just for a couple minutes about your program and what's going on?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Layton. So like both Leighton and John said, it's been a tough situation, but hopefully everyone is staying safe and staying healthy at home. So for the juniors and the U10s, we've been rolling out sessions every week, like Leighton said. We've been doing 2 sessions for the players to do, but starting this week, we've added a 3rd session. So now we're going to be sending out 3 sessions that the kids can do each week. And then the coaches are, tracking their players, talking with their players, getting feedback on the sessions, making sure that they're doing it. If each group is, maybe a player's having a little trouble doing something, the coaches are there to help support them, just to make sure that, everything hopefully can go as smoothly as possible during this time. And then this last week we had our players or our coaches did little evaluations of the players. Our U10s had previously done in-person evaluations, but this week they sent player development plans to everybody. And then for the juniors, they should have gotten little assessments that the coaches put together. Just a couple things that the kids do well, and then a couple things they can maybe spend a little bit extra time on during this time away. And then those assessments and player development plans should also have included some videos for the kids to watch. For instance, if the kid is really good at passing, a video of Kevin De Bruyne showing his passing skills to hopefully help get the kids a little bit hyped. We've still been doing juggling club. We're doing it on a rolling basis. It's been great seeing the videos come in from the players who've beaten their juggling records. I think we have, Dane, who's a U10 boy, is now up over 300, I believe. So that's been great. He's right around there at least. And then we also started a new Instagram for the junior account. We're posting pictures of kids doing work there. So if you're a junior U10 and you're doing work, send it to your coach, send it to me, and we'll get it posted there so everybody can see you doing the work. And then we all started a YouTube channel where we're putting different activities you could do there. And the coaches are doing those once or twice a week. We're getting videos from our coaching staff and uploading them there so the kids can have different activities to do there as well. And the kind of last thing we're doing as a group, to wrap up my time here, is we're doing quizzes for the groups as well. So we have little Google form quizzes that we're sending out on Tuesdays and Fridays that the kids can do. And again, the coaching staff is responsible for putting those together and getting them out. So we're trying our best to stay engaged with everybody and send everybody stuff to do. And as Leighton said, we're kind of always looking at it and kind of tweaking it. Maybe we can do a little bit more. Maybe some things are a little too much. And so we're just trying to, as we're getting used to what the situation is, how we can best support everybody.
Viet, you want to go next? Thank you, Ryan.
Let me unmute my. Can you guys hear me okay now? All right. Thanks, Ryan. That was great. It's great to see everybody out there, seeing some familiar faces. First off, I miss you guys. I just miss being out in the field and working with the kids. So it's good to connect and see each other in this way. Just real quick. So what we've been doing with the coaches staff and I, we meet each week over Zoom. We talk about the lesson plan. The main objective is one, connecting with the team. So the coaches are connecting with the team, and the main objective is just having fun, doing some trivia, catching up on those players and see how things are going. The second thing, we've been having them meet in subgroups, some smaller groups of 4, groups of 3. So that way they can dig into a little bit more of the tactical stuff, going over video or talking about how to play out of the back, just different things that they can meet and connect with the players on a smaller group. Then we've been rolling out the lesson plans. The kids, the 08 and 09s have 3 times a week. Obviously, the kids that are a little bit more ambitious, that want to do more, they can push themselves and do as much as they want. But the requirement is 3 times a week. The workout's about 45 minutes or so, give or take 10 or 15 minutes. But so that's rolling out every Sunday. And then as we start to progress in the next few weeks, I think we're going to ramp it up a little bit more. And then give other coaches some more variety on the session. But overall, it's been great. We just felt like, obviously, it's a little bit different as far as learning and teaching goes, but I feel like it's given us a great platform with Zoom and connecting with the players on a more personal level. The coaches are, obviously my son's in the program under Johan, and I hear him connecting with his teammates a bit more, doing quizzes, and he's looking forward to those meetings each week. So it's been good. But I would just encourage the kids that are listening. This is a time for you guys to continue to hone your craft, hone your skills. And sometimes, having all this time, this downtime allows you to really explore and work on your skills individually. Because, when we think of ourselves when we were younger, that's what we did. We went out in the backyard and got on the ball as much as we could. I know you can't do it with your friends right now, but just going out there and having the discipline and self-motivation to do that. So, but other than that, we're super excited with what we're doing right now. The coaching staff and I have been really engaging in the meetings and excited to push out some new programs and some new ideas for the players. But I know I talked to the staff, and we miss the kids. We just miss being at Starfire, and we hope to see everybody soon. Okay.
Thanks, Viet. Let's go with Malia next, John.
Unmute that. Hi guys, thanks Viet. We're doing similar stuff here with the girls program, meeting once a week with the staff to go over our assignments and what we're pushing out to all the players. But for the girls 13s to 19s, we're sending out weekly workouts that they should be getting through their managers. There should be 3 workouts in there. They include videos, if you've seen those, and as they come on, you'll see different coaches in those videos doing demos, which has been pretty exciting for us to create and learn how to do. All of our players should be getting their evals with their coaches if those haven't been done yet. So personal Zoom calls or FaceTime calls to go over things to work on at home. The high school girls, we started last week doing fitness once a week. So the coaches are sending out the weekly fitness for the U15 and above players. They have to go out, test themselves, record their scores and video their run, send it to the coaches, and then the coaches send me all the scores so we can see what everybody looks like, how their fitness levels are. This week we're rolling out a tactical side. So the same as Ryan and Viet have mentioned, we'll be doing tactical quizzes with coaches over their Zoom calls with their teams. And that should spark some good discussion with the players and the coaches just around learning from watching videos and learning from different topics of discussion. And then we are in the middle of 2 social things that have been kind of fun with the girls. Lindsay's worked with the 13s and 14s on the Pass It On toilet paper challenge. So I've seen some of those videos come through. We'll be putting those on social media in the next week or 2. And then the last little challenge we've done with the girls for all ages is the toilet paper juggling challenge, where we've had the girls had to record themselves, so there was no lying about their scores. They sent it to their coaches, and so we'll have an announcement of who got the most juggles individually and what teams have gotten the most juggles. We'll do that in the next week or 2 also. I think the record so far is 44 juggles with the toilet paper, which I don't know if any of you have tried, but it's pretty difficult. So I don't know how many practice rounds that took. But other than that, really excited like everybody else to get back at Starfire, miss everybody. And my message to a lot of the players is, I'm excited to see who uses this time to train on their own, run on their own, watch videos, and kind of see who comes out ahead when we get back on the soccer field together. So I hope everybody's challenging themselves, working hard, and doing their homework. I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Malia. Pedro, do you want to head up next?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hola everyone. PAC, I want to start saying this. PAC, in my opinion, is a way of living. When we all come to Starfire so many times on a weekly basis, it becomes part of who we are. And I miss that part of myself for sure. I miss all the players, all the coaches. I miss the parents on the sidelines, the board, the fans, everyone, even the pigs at Starfire. So I miss you all a ton. We coaches are in touch during the week, U13 through 14. We connect quite often. And then U15, we decided to offer, even though the kids, our older boys are in high school because of what's going on, obviously they're not training. So we are also, taking those kids back, and now they're kind of part of the program again. And we're offering the same service that we're doing for U13, 14s, adapted to the older kids. We're here to support all the players. We're here to support all the families. If anybody has any idea, anything that could make us stronger, please do not hesitate to contact me, to contact us. We roll out every week an outline and a structure that has a few components. One of those components is ball mastery. We want to make sure that the kids are always in touch with the ball. The second one is a technical tempo, which is two components mixed together. The ability to ball mastery again with the physical component, right? So make someone, we talk about speed all the time, and most time we refer to physical speed, but this is a little more technical speed. How fast or how long does it take to trap the ball? How long does it take to face the right way? How long does it take to get a shot off? And so on and so on and so on. So far, we've been doing 2 days of those of technical tempo. Starting tomorrow, the week of April the 6th, we're going to 3 days now, plus all the stuff that we're doing. We also, part of our session includes a tactical session or decision making, and we do that in the form of Google, through Google Forms. When it represents, we add, with the help of Axel, who's been outstanding, we add videos from YouTube, short videos, and we ask a bunch of questions that are related to those. We also invite the players to find their own videos and link them to our Google Forms so we can also watch them. And through that, we stay connected. One of the things of this idea that is pretty cool is that when we get to implement these, we also get to see the results. So every time someone gets some kind of answer, we get on behind the screen, we get all that information. So we can see who's active, who's not active. And if anybody, for any reason, could be disconnecting, we can always go after the player and kind of engage with them again. On top of that, we do aerobic and anaerobic activities, just to make sure that the physical tempo is there, that the players are pushing themselves. That's mostly for the whole U13 through U19. Now, U15 through U19, we make sure that we do a lot of college. We're hitting the college aspects. We're keeping up with College Fit Finder, making sure that with all this free time that players have for the most part, they're updating it. And also the College Master Sheet, which allows all the players to do the homework that sometimes they have to do through the summer when they're semi-busy or before the summer. Now they get to do it at this time. And hopefully by the time we come back, that will be 2 steps out of the way already. The social part, which as we all know, it's a very important part of the game of soccer, especially for younger players. We obviously are also doing the stay-at-home challenge, the toilet paper as well, like anybody else. But we also, this week, we're gonna roll into the sitting jogging challenge, which is basically, feet on the ground, butt on the ground, hands on the ground. How many times can you joggle without standing up? You're gonna see some videos. Some of the coaches, Axel and I, have been working on it, trying to beat each other. So we decided it was time to pass it on and let it be contagious. And then we're also doing a little bit of tactical, a little bit of decision making through Kahoot. Because when we do all this technical tempo and all these tactical stuff, even ball mastery, it's semi-competitive, right? It's one way of being competitive. But through Kahoot, which is a system of answering questions, it's like a testing system that is pretty cool for kids. They can do it on the phone. We also get to expose a little bit of the tactical side of the game. We also get to do trivia, which is very awesome for the players to stay connected to what's happening in the game of soccer in the last years. And we also bring a competitive side out of player because we're trying to make sure that, they're fighting to be in the top 1, top 2 places because they all get to compete. And then at the end of all this, we try to make sure that we're synchronizing and we're posting as much as we can on the media. Anyway, from my side, that's everything. I miss everybody, and I hope everybody's healthy. Like Layton said, keep the social distance, and hopefully we'll see you in a few weeks. Go Pac.
Thanks, Pedro. Awesome to see all of our directors. Miss seeing you guys down at Starfire. Before we go on to our next agenda item, I did want everyone to know that you can submit questions by the chat function. So we're monitoring those. I love the shout out to Axel and the Boys 07 for connecting via Zoom. So if you have questions for anybody, any of our directors or board members, you can certainly just submit them via the chat function. All right, so I know there's been a ton of uncertainty about this season, the 1920 season, sort of where we're at on that. So I'll turn it over to Leighton. He's been in very close contact with the state of Washington, and other sort of leagues, and he can give an update on sort of where we're at for this particular season.
Okay, everyone. So for this particular season, the governor issued a May 4th stay-at-home, stay-in-place. Unfortunately, that would put us at a timeline that we could not finish RCL League or State Cup. The ECNL has not made a verdict yet, but my guess would be very similar, that it doesn't look like we'll be back on the field to finish our ECNL season. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the case for the girls, but my indication is that we probably won't finish that either. With that being said, all the directors in the area of the other big clubs are really concentrating now on the 2020-21 tryouts. Those dates will come out. Those physical tryout dates is something we're working towards. Those dates will be out very shortly. And if we do not have those physical tryouts in May like we normally do, there will be a plan B. And that plan B still up in the air. There's a lot of clubs talking about reserving spots and doing stuff virtually like we're doing now. But that information will come out later in April. But as of now, unfortunately, the State Cup is finished and RCL League and ECNL has not made a statement, but it's probably going to be very similar to those two. So it's very unfortunate for everyone that was looking forward to finishing the season or competing in State Cup. So, like everyone else, it's just tough times, and hopefully we get behind it and we get in front of it and we look to the next season's tryouts in May. Those dates we should know in the next 10 days or so when those physical dates for tryouts are. I'm going to kick it back to you, John, with that.
Hey, everybody, this is Todd Johnson. I just wanted to add one little add-on to to what Lane's talking about with tryouts. We've been talking about it, obviously, behind the scenes. We're getting prepared as much as possible to be ready when that date comes. As Leighton mentioned, it's a moving target, but we have chosen not to open tryouts at this point in registration. We feel like, we can do everything we need to do on our side to be ready to literally turn the switch on, which we will be, but we'd rather just kind of let everybody do their own thing. We don't need to be holding on to everybody's registration money at this point for no reason. So we'd rather just kind of hold tight, just understand that we're ready to go as soon as we get the word. And we will hopefully have that sooner than later. But if you don't see that on there and you see other clubs kind of starting to do trial registration, understand that, there is no real hurry since we don't have a date, but as soon as we have something, we will be live and ready to go. So just from the board side, just so you understand that.
Thanks, Todd. Leighton, do you want to talk about regionals? We got a question on the chat about regionals.
Yeah, as far as I know, the word on the street, I think it's confirmed, is that regionals will not be going on this year. So that's another unfortunate aspect of what we're going through, but regionals will not be going on as part of this, lockdown and, the travel advisory and everything that's happening. Unfortunately, regionals will also be canceled.
Okay. Anybody else have questions for Leighton about the 2020 season you want to submit by chat? All right. I'm going to move on to, I think, our last topic, and that relates to some financial considerations related to the shortened season. So I'm going to put up some slides here just to go through a couple points that we've come up with. I can tell you that this has been a topic of considerable discussion among the board. We've had several very, very long Zoom meetings like this and phone conferences just to kind of understand what the impact of all this is on the club. Thankfully, the club was in a very healthy financial spot before we went into this. I know some other clubs are not so fortunate, but we entered into this sort of unprecedented time in a pretty good spot. So let me put up a couple slides here. Okay, so first things first. So let me just move this around. So we understand that many of our families are either going through a tough financial situation or they soon will be facing considerable challenges as a result of that. The unemployment numbers are exceptionally high, and we know that many people are going to be really impacted by that. The second sort of consideration that we've talked through is that any type of refunds or credits that the club would offer would have a direct and material impact on our financial health. We have a very simple business model. We receive fees from our players, and we offer a service in return for that. We offer them coaching and soccer. We don't have, like some businesses have a huge number of sort of revenue streams, and they have online sales and retail sales and so forth. We really have sort of one revenue source for the most part, and then that's player fees. So if you take away our player fees, it has a huge impact on our overall sort of bottom line. We've been talking very closely with other RCL clubs, our peers. We consider sort of Eastside, Washington Premier, Seattle United, Crossfire as sort of our peer clubs in the area. And we've been in very close contact with them just to kind of understand sort of how they're handling it. How have you actually, dealt with this situation with your own? To our knowledge, none of them have offered any type of refund or credit for this time. Everybody is basically taking the same position that we are continuing to offer a service and we're continuing to offer soccer programming, but we're doing it in a very different way. We're doing it by Zoom. We're doing it by sending out, weekly workouts. And so everybody is basically taking that same approach, that because members are still receiving services in exchange for their fees, then there was no need to sort of offer a refund or a credit. When we've been talking about this as a board, we wanted to be very, very sensitive to the fact that families may need money like now. They may be sort of in a very difficult financial place. And so we wanted to do what we could, as well as protect the future of the club. If we simply sort of just made huge refunds, then that could have very severe long-term ramifications. So we're trying to balance both of these things. So we're going to try to do these sort of things. First of all, we moved anybody who was on an installment payment plan. We deferred their payments for April. So you probably, if you were affected by this, you might have gotten an email from Affinity that basically said all of the April payments are being moved to like the end of the term, like December. So we did that to sort of try to alleviate those right away. We're also going to offer our members a selection between either getting a refund of sort of a pro rata amount of their fees or a credit that they can apply for next season, or they can simply choose to do nothing and sort of donate or refund or donate this refund or credit amount in order to support the club through this time. So all of our members are basically going to get those three options. They can get a refund for sort of the impact of coronavirus, a credit towards next year, or they can choose to just donate that amount to the club and support the club in that way. So here's how we're going to carry this out. So every member is going to have a choice, and they're going to have to take some steps in order to go and actually submit this request to the club. We're going to give all of our members 2 weeks in order to carry this out. The reason that we need that is because we need to close our books, essentially. We can't have this sort of lingering out for a month or 2 months or something. Our soccer season essentially runs through the end of April. And so we're going to give every member 2 weeks in order to go onto a very simple web form, and they can pick one of these three options. If any of our members fail to do anything, then they're not going to be getting a refund. They're not going to be getting a credit. It's essentially just sort of the status quo, right? So let me talk a little bit about how we came up with the amounts. I think our Director of Operations, Kaylin Aramaki, is on, and our Treasurer, Michelle Patton, is on. But they have done a tremendous amount of analysis of this. They've looked at every single age group to try to understand what are the costs that are specific to that. Like the U10 boys may have an entirely different cost structure than the U17 ECNL girls. And so we couldn't simply do a very straightforward, sort of dollar amount refund for every single age group. And so we tried to tailor it to each of the specific genders and age groups and leagues. Whatever the players are, we try to tailor it to that specific age group. We try to take into account sort of the value of the services that were lost for half of March and all of April. So those things like fields, those things like referees for games, our overhead costs as a club, all of that stuff, we tried to build that into whatever the refund amount is. So one thing that's important to note is that throughout this time when we've been essentially shut down, or when we've been away from Starfire, we've continued to retain our coaches and we've continued to pay them. So because we have continued to sort of pay our coaches, that impacts the amount of the refunds that we can offer, right? A huge percentage of what your fees go for is paying for your coaches and paying for their salaries. So because we've continued to pay them and we've kept them on and they've continued to coach their teams, that has significantly reduced the amount of the refund. And finally, the last point on this is that the credit or the refund amounts are relatively low because we're basically at the end of the season. So if this, coronavirus thing would have happened, say in June or July of last year or October, November, then we're in an entirely different situation. But here, like I said, our soccer season runs essentially May 1 through April 30th every single year. And so as we sit here now in April, the season has basically already, it's almost done. And so most of the services have already been provided. And so because of that, the refund amounts are relatively low. So I'm going to show you sort of what the amounts are. And all of this is going to be sent out by email. So you don't need to sort of jot it down or whatever. But the way that it's going to work is that, like I said, you're going to be able to get either a refund or a credit. You'll notice that, let me just move to the slide. You'll notice that the credits are going to be higher than the refunds. Okay, so the question I'm sure is going to come up now, why is the credit higher than the refund? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it's very administratively hard for us to offer a refund. It takes a lot of sort of manual work when you're dealing with a club of our size. And second, we think that there may be some families who are going to be hurting when it comes time to sort of sign up for soccer next year. And we wanted to try to help that out by giving a bit higher amount of credit than the actual refund amount. So that's what we're doing for the refunds and the credits. You'll notice on here that we do not list high school boys. So you'll see the ECNL boys, U13s, 14. The reason being is because they just tried out in February, and many of them have already paid fees. So what are we going to do with that? Well, we have essentially taken all of those fees and set them off to the side. And so they haven't received any services. They're off playing their high school soccer right now. And this is only for sort of this particular soccer season from 19 to 20, not for the 20/21 season. You'll notice that they're not included here. So I'm going to take a look really quick at our questions, because I'm guessing that we may have a fair number of those. Let's see here. So let's see here. Okay. Was the club refunded State Cup and President's Cup fees? That's a good question. And the answer is that we're working with Washington Youth Soccer, but I do not believe that we've actually received those funds as a refund yet. Michelle Patton, you're the treasurer. Are you able to answer that definitively?
Yes, so we had sent in the check for our state cut fees. It had not been cashed yet. So at this point, we do not need to be refunded that money.
Okay. Let's see. So do refunds apply to the olders who are currently in high school season? I'm not sure if that's older boys or older girls. I'm going to guess it's probably older boys. And again, that they've tried out for the 2021 season. And so they would have already received all the services for the 1920 season. Families do a partial refund or a partial donation. Right now, the answer is no. We've just set this up so that it's as simple as possible. You get sort of the three options. You can ask for a refund, you can get the credit for next year, or you can essentially donate to the club. Can we get a charitable donation receipt if we choose the donate option? That's a good question. Michelle, do you want to answer that as far as if we can offer receipts for a donation to the club?
Yeah, that is something I can do. I can add a checkbox to the form if they would like to see.
Okay, so another question. Do we find this on a web form on the website or through email? So this is going to be communicated out to the entire club by email in the next day or two. We wanted to sort of announce it or disclose it over the Zoom so we could try to add a little bit more context that wouldn't just come through in an email. There'll be a link to a like Smartsheet form, I think, and it's going to be very simple. It's going to ask for your player's name, your player's age, and you get to pick sort of any of the three options, like a check the box type of thing. And then Michelle is going to be working to try to refund that over the next several weeks. We're going to try to refund the original form of payment. And if for whatever reason we're not able to put it back onto a credit card, you'll get an actual check for your refund amount. Are the coaches being paid throughout this time period? Someone asked me. The answer is yes. Absolutely, they are being paid through this. Let's see here. It should be pointed out. Okay, so this is a good point someone raised about travel fees. And so in our world, we think about sort of two types of fees. One is player fees or club fees, and the other is travel fees. And those are sort of very separate and distinct. What I'm talking about right now is just related to the club fees or the player fees. We are, working hard to get refunds for all of the travel fees that families might have paid. And so that would be handled completely differently. I think we've had some good success at getting refunds on airline tickets and so forth, but that's a very different thing than what we're talking about, which is just the fees that are paid to Pac Northwest for the coaching and the programming that we offer. What about if a player doesn't make it in the next season? That's a good question. So if you elect to get a credit and you're not placed on a Pac Northwest team, then we would work with you to essentially give you that back as a refund. So then at that point, we would just know that you were owed a refund and we could issue you a check at that point. So that's a good question. Sure. Let's see here. Shout out to Johan for doing a great job of running Zoom meetings. Good job, Johan, and to Viet for sending out the weekly work. That's fantastic. We've got a couple people who have indicated that they're concerned for their coaches, and I can just tell you that we are as well, and we're trying to do everything we can through this very, very uncertain time. Let's see here. So this is a question from the ECNL 05 boys. Is there anything done for 8th graders payments? So I guess, Michelle, do you want to answer that? Does that question make sense to you?
It does. We hadn't really looked into that at all yet. Depending on what happens with the 2021 season, we may have to reduce fees. So at this point, it kind of depends on when we start back up, what will be happening.
Okay. Let's see, we've got a question about spring finishing school. There was only one class that was run and then they were all canceled. We will be issuing refunds. We had hoped that we were going to be able to reschedule finishing school, to be honest with you. So we didn't come straight out and just offer refunds. But as this thing is dragged on, then it's become apparent that we're not able to reschedule those. So we will be refunding for all of the finishing school classes or programs that we weren't able to run. Okay, let's see here. Do we have any decision yet on the fees being held for the 2021 season for U15 boys or older if they don't get started in May, or summer tournaments, etc.? We don't. And so everything is so uncertain. We don't know when tryouts are going to be. We don't know when we're going to be able to get back on the field. So we don't have any decision on that. What I can tell you is, as a board, as we've been sort of thinking about our financial position and trying to sort of plan and forecast, one sort of non-negotiable is that we cannot touch those funds. And it's a considerable amount. But because of the uncertainty, we have essentially decided we will not take those funds into account at all, planning for the future. So I don't have any specific answer as far as that, other than just to tell you that right now those funds are essentially just being held and we're sort of leaving them off to the side. Okay, let's see here. So what was the amount per player on a prorated basis that was put towards coaches versus refunded? For those of us that paid up front, how many months remain in fee schedule? Just April or May or all the way through June? Basically, is it 2 months or 3 of payments? I'm not sure that I totally understand the question. I think what I would request is that if you have a very specific question like that, you email treasurer@pacnwsc.org. Michelle is fantastic, and I think she's probably better to handle some of those very, very specific questions by email. The donation amount equals a refund or a credit. Well, there'll be 3 options. You can choose refund, credit, or donation. Oh, I think you're asking, is it going to be the lower amount or the higher amount? I think we would view it as the lower amount, because it's essentially like you're going to continue to pay sort of what your entire fees were. And instead of getting that back in your pocket, you're just allowing the club to sort of continue to use that. Let's see here. Can PAC set up a GoFundMe? So there's a question about PAC setting up a GoFundMe. It's a good question, a valid question. It's not something that we will do as a club. We're bound by a lot of tax rules as a nonprofit and things that we need to be careful of in order to sort of protect our nonprofit status. And so we would not be setting up a GoFundMe to sort of solicit donations for families who are hurting at this time. I think we'd be supportive if people want to do that on their own or teams, but we won't be doing that at the club level, at least, I guess. All right, let me see here. My question was not answered. I have a daughter who didn't fold. Okay, so I think there's a question about someone who paid in full at the start of the season and this is their final season. And it doesn't sound like the lesser refund is fair for the older players. I think that's what someone is asking the question for. Michelle, does that make sense to you at all? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess I get what they're saying, but the credit.
All right. I'm not sure how to answer that question, but yeah, we'll look into it and I'll talk with Michelle. Again, I'll talk to Michelle and see if we can understand what this is. By the way, we're recording this Zoom call, so we'll have this. We can look back on it. All right, so I'm going to try to keep going through these. Do we need to fill out a form if we get a refund for finishing school? I think the expectation is we will do that on our own without the need to fill out a form. Will PAC apply for a small business loan forgiveness program? It's a good question. We're looking at every single option, including applying for small business loans and payroll protection plan. Kaylin and Michelle Todd Johnson, our executive director, have been all over that. Let's see here. I'm going to just see if there's any others. Otherwise, we can do a FAQ on our website, just so I can. Are we still going to be buying full uniforms for next year? Yes, that wouldn't change. Can we donate the finishing school refund? I'll talk to Michelle about that. If someone takes the credit or refund, it will not affect any type of financial aid going forward. Those are totally different things there. Will out-of-state tournaments be considered for the summer? I think at this point, yes, but I understand the sensitivities there. That's going to be a decision that Layton, Malia, Pedro, Ryan, and Viet come up with on their discussion about whether we'll be sending teams out of state or not, just based on that. All right, I think I'm going to pause right now. I think we'll do an FAQ. I really appreciate everybody joining. Layton and our directors, thank you guys for your reports. And we might be doing another one of these in a week or two to provide further updates. So hope everybody stays healthy and really appreciate your time. Take care.